Okay, we're going to begin reviewing today. A little warm up before we do our quiz. This worksheet, along with your review from yesterday, the 7.7 packet and the 7.5 packet. Get all of those out after this review is done, and you will be turning those in. Then you will start your quiz, and of course, turn your quiz in. You may use a ruler and a calculator. 14 is to 49 is 10 is to x would be the setup for this problem, because we know that if two parallel lines, three parallel lines cut by a transversal will cut off two different transversals into proportional parts. So 14 times x here is equal to 490 by our cross products property. That's what I did. Divide both sides by 14, and x is 35. Number 2, you look at the triangle, we see that 14 is a full side of that triangle. And then we notice that there's a piece that's 9. And I can compare DE to CB. Because these are parallel sides, then we know that the pieces of the sides are proportional. Side splitter theorem. We can take 14 minus 9 and get 5 so that we have something in the position for EA. Then we can compare vertically. I just like to see it as a fraction. 9 is to x plus 2, as 5 is to 7. It, of course, can be done 4 different ways. You could do 9 is to 5, as x plus 2 is to 7. As long as you have 5 across from your x plus 2 and 9 across from 7. When we do our cross products property, we get 5 times x plus 2 equals 9 times 7. I know most of you simplify that as you go. You wouldn't have written this step necessarily, but that would be 5 times x plus 10 is 63. We would need to subtract 10 from both sides. And then 5 times x was equal to 53. We're going to divide by 5, and this one's going to be a decimal. That happens to equal 10.6. Number 3, Fran used a graphics program to reduce a digital image. The original dimensions of the image were 13 centimeters by 8 centimeters, and she used a scale factor of 0.4. What would be the dimensions of the reduction? What we need to do then is multiply the dimensions by the scale factor. So we'll do 13 times 0.4 and 8 times 0.4. Typing that on our calculator, 13 times 0.4 will give you 5.2, and then 8 times 0.4 will be 3.2. So the new dimensions will be 5.2 centimeters by 3.2 centimeters. Number 4, we got the scale on a map is half an inch is 15 miles. 0.5 of an inch is worth 15 miles. I'm going to use that scale in order to solve for the distance between the two cities, which we would, if you were measuring, you would put this on top because it's in 2.4 inches is between the two cities on the map. So inches to inches, miles to miles. So inches have to be in the same position, miles would be on the bottom. Okay, so this is how we set it up. Then we do our cross products property. We get 0.5 times x is equal to 15 times 2.4. I'm going to go ahead and type that on my calculator. 15 times 2.4, which gives me 36. I'm going to clear this screen up. And then I have to divide by 0.5. Some people have the mistaken idea that dividing by 0.5 is the same as taking half of 36. It is not. If you actually were to divide by 0.5, which is a half, you would take 36 times the reciprocal of 2. Actually, when you type on your calculator 36 divided by 0.5, you're going to find out it is 36 times 2, 72. Oops, and that was supposed to be in miles. We should have a label on that. Number 5, we have a whole side here that is where the X is. So I'm going to show you what you have to do on this picture, because you got to think about the fact that X is the entire side of triangle GIU. So if I'm going to compare X to something, I'm going to have to compare it to another piece of that triangle. Now, the 12 here is part of this smaller triangle, and so is the 8. Now, I know most of you would start right off and go X is to 8 as, and then you might make a mistake and write 12 over 6 or 6 over 12, which isn't going to work for you. I need to find out that entire green side there. So it would actually be 18 because I had to add 12 and 6. So this would be X, a whole side to a whole side. X is to 8 as 18 is to, and then what number I would use for that would be the 12, which is part of the pink triangle there. This would be the setup we need for this problem. Properties of cross products, we got 12 times X is equal to 8 times 18, which would be 144. And we're going to divide both sides by 12, and we would get X is 12. Number 6, what we need to remember is that if we have 3 parallel lines cut by 2 transversals, those transversals are proportional to one another. So since these are equal on this side, these would be equal as well on that side. Now, 6y minus 32, then we need to set equal to y plus 8. We need to get our y's on one side, so we're going to subtract y from both sides, which gives us 5 times y minus 32 is equal to 8. We then add 32 to both sides. Keep our equation balanced. We get 5 times y is 40. Divide both sides by 5 as our last step, and we have y is 8. Number 7. In triangle ABC, DE is parallel to AC is given, and it's shown on the diagram. If A to D is 15, which is also labeled, B to D is 4, that's labeled, CE is 12, find BE. Oh, well, let's just do the fractions kind of as we see them here. Because we know if we have parallel lines, these side splitter theorem says that these two pieces are proportional to the other two pieces on this side. It's divided the side into 2 parts that are proportional with the parts of the other side. So 15 over 12 you can do is equal to 4 over x. Or, of course, you could go 15 is to 4 as 12 is to x. Regardless of which way you do it, and again, 4 possible ways to write it correctly. As long as you've got 15 across from your x, you're in good shape. So 15 times x is equal to 4 times 12, which is 48. We're going to divide by 15. And we should be getting x is 3, what the heck, I'll go on here, I think it's 3.2, but 48 divided by 15. Yep, 3.2. Didn't ask us to do anything else, so I found BE is 3.2 because I put an X on BE. Number 8, show your proportion, find X. Well, I know that if I have an angle bisector, which is what this is, it splits the side that it crosses into 2 pieces that are proportional with the other 2 sides, the remaining 2 sides. But I've got a whole side here of 15, so I first need a label for this. So since the whole thing's 15, I subtract 10 and get 5. Now I'm ready to go. X is to 10 as 13 is to 5. It's not the only way you can do it. You can go across as long as you're consistent. X is to 13 as 10 is to 5. you see that you get the same things across from one another. Therefore, our proportion will solve the same, regardless of which one you use. So this would be 5 times x is equal to 10 times 13, which is 130. Dividing both sides by 5 gives us x is 26. Number 9, show our work to find x. Got another angle bisector. It says identify the kind of segment. Angle bisector is what that is. We can go ahead and use x minus 2 is to 3 as x plus 3 is to 5. Cross product property gives us 5 times x minus 2 is equal to 3 times x plus 3, the quantity. I did not always show it this way. Did I write it out? I know that most of you have been going ahead and distributing, but I wanted to remind you to be careful and make sure you distribute properly. This would be 5 times x minus 10 in the left side equals 3 times x plus 9. And of course, it doesn't matter what you have on either side as long as you solve correctly. So let's get our x's on the left by subtracting 3x from both sides. If it's on the right, so what? 2 times x minus 10 is equal to 9. Add 10, should have 2 times x is 19. And then dividing both sides by 2, you should get x is 9.5. Oh, put that in the blank. And number 10, this is a segment that is coming from a vertex and is perpendicular to the side opposite that vertex. That would be an altitude. It's the tallness of the triangle. All right, we have looked at these repeatedly. Now, you can say in two triangles, the altitudes are proportional to the sides. So if you like to start with x is an altitude compared to the other altitude, so x over 34 equals, and I go back to the same figure you started with. I started with x and went to 34, so now I'm going to have to take that base, 26, and go to 40. So it's going to be 26 over 40. Cross products, we get 40 times x and 34 times 26. I don't feel like doing that one in my head, so I'm going to type it. Got 884. Divide both sides by 40. And x is, hit divided by 40. I already have the 884 on my calc. 22.1. Yeah, I didn't want to do that one in my head. 22.1 is the measure of that altitude. And finally, we're going to do a couple of map problems. I'm going to grab the segment tool here. And I'm going to draw from Robinvale to, they want me to go to University Cook Douglas campus, which is down here. Don't confuse that with the Rutgers University I don't know, university, I'm thinking that stands for Livingston campus. Okay, so we're going to measure this. Take your ruler, put 0 on the inches side, not the millimeters, you know, the side that has less marks, please. If I grab a ruler, mine's not going to be to scale with yours. Oops. But the inches side is this side. I don't know. You got to measure this segment. All right, so put 0 here, measure to there. What you should get from that is 2 14/16. Oops. Didn't mean to move that around. It should come out to 2 14/16 on your calculator. Now, 2 14/16, you could reduce that to 2 and, get that ruler out of the way. Go away. 2 and, oh my Lord, excuse me. Oh, crazy stuff going on here. I think I just need to get that ruler out of here. There we go. All right, if you reduced it to, let's do that again. Okay, grab a Penheimer. All right, there'd be 2 7/8, or what we're going to do anyway is we're going to grab our calculator and convert that to a decimal. So if you type 2 plus 14 divided by 16, and we're going to write that whole decimal down, 2.875. Do not round it. All right, that's 2.875 inches. We want to know how many miles that is, and we go to the scale on the map, and we see that 1 inch, so we set up a proportion, 1 inch, this equals 1 inch is worth 1.88 miles. All right, we can see 1 times x, x times 1 is just going to be x, and we're going to be doing 2.875 times 1.88. Let's grab a calc. I already got the 2.875 there, so I'm going to multiply that by 1.88. Inches times 1.88, 5.405. Now, if you want, you can just write that whole thing down, 5.405, and label it with miles. Next measurement we need to do is from, let's see what they say here, from Highland Park and Rutgers University, Livingston, Kansas. There's the Rutgers one right here. We want to go to Highland Park. Okay, you measure that on your ruler. Some of you will be getting 8/16, and some of you will think it's 9/16. Use whatever, because it's kind of in between. So whichever you choose, convert that to the decimal. Of course, 8/16 is simply a half, which is 0.5. And if you do 9/16, then you'd have to write a little bit more. It would be 0.5625. Multiply that dimension by the 1.88, like we did in the last problem. And if you use 9/16, you're going to get 1.0575. If you use the other, you're going to get 1.88 times 0.5, which is probably what most of you did anyway. And that's 0.94. So I'm thinking 0.94 miles. Or if you did 9/16, it was 1.05, I forgot, 75 miles. There is a difference there, but it was a little ambiguous as to whether it was between 8/16 and 9/16. All right, it's quiz time. Have a nice weekend.